Thank you. As Sabine cannot present the Fête des Vignerons, I will step in as practitioner. And the reason why I'm here today, all that Stefan said, is perhaps that I participated to the Fête des Vignerons in '99 as singing in a choir, and now I am fully involved in the organization of the next Fête des Vignerons. So it's a celebration that takes place in the city of Vevey, but celebrates the honor of the best wine growers. You see different dates. It's celebrated once a generation, almost all 20 years. Here you have the dates of the 20th century. And it takes place in the city of Vevey, between the larger city of Lausanne and Montreux. Vevey is a city of 22,000 inhabitants. It's very close to the World Heritage Site UNESCO, Lavaux, that is the vineyard that is very close to Vevey, and Fête des Vignerons and this World Heritage are very close together and very related one to another. Fête des Vignerons, that is almost more than 5,000 people as volunteers who are playing their role on the big marketplace of Vevey. Each performance is played for almost 20,000 spectators. The last one took place in '99. It lasted 3 weeks, and more than 40,000 people came every day to Vevey from the nearby region and from abroad for visiting the city and being at a festival. The next festival will be in the summer 2019 from the 18th of July to the 11th of August. In December 2016, after that our tradition has been chosen by the Swiss government to be submitted to UNESCO Commission to be placed on the list of intangible cultural heritage, the UNESCO session in Addis Abeba recognized the Fête des Vignerons and put it on the special list as the first element from Switzerland. The Wine-Grower Festival and the Lavaux Vineyard Terrace are a good example for this close relationship and complementarity between intangible and tangible cultural heritage. The Confrérie des Vignerons celebrates perfection in the wine growing by the vine growers of the Lavaux region and the harmonious development of the vineyards since the Middle Ages. It was an important factor of preservation and improvement of the techniques of vine growing in the area. The Fête des Vignerons is something like a symbolic picture of the cultural and agricultural skills which allowed the preservation and the development of this terrace. To explain the importance of this festival in the region of Vevey and in an actually urbanized society, I will show you the following points. First, we have to understand why this festival has been put up, and we will come after to the value it shares and also the importance of the museum. The Fête des Vignerons is run by the secular purpose of the Brotherhood of the Wine Growers, called La Confrérie des Vignerons. This is an association of landowners who are people from the city and who wanted to control more or less how the farmer they engaged for cultivating their land could work. As they are not specialists, they put on a system for controlling this work, and the experts are going 3 times a year on the vineyard, looking at the work and putting marks. And this is the main activity of this Confrérie des Vignerons. They began with reprimanding all the farmers who did not good work, publicly on the church, And they decided at the end of the 18th century to change system and to make it positive. So they began to make a great parade through the town of Fête with all the people of the Brotherhood, and to give to the best wine grower a medal and also some money to thank them for their good work. So since 1797, the Fête des Vignerons has developed to the festival we know nowadays. That is going through the city, but also with a big festival shown on the place, for which they built different places to sit on, and it became bigger and bigger. So you have the picture of 99. I am in this picture, and my children and my husband also. I am red. But you see all the participants on the end of the festival that are here on the playground. There are more than 5,000 people, and here you see the crowning of the best wine growers from the authorities of the confrérie. And at the Fête des Vignerons, they not only get a medal and a money prize like each third year, but every 20 years at the Fête des Vignerons they are crowned, and they get a crown but also a money prize. This is very important because these wine growers, these farmers, are very proud of this from generation to generation, and they try to do their best to be the king of the Fête des Vignerons. There will be several kings, we don't know how many, and nobody will know it until the 18th of July, as the first day of the Fête des Vignerons. In the first show, there will be the crowning of the real king of the Fête des Vignerons. During the century, Fête des Vignerons has also involved a lot of image of elements of Swiss history. You see here the Swiss Guards, that is a typical group that comes back in every Fête des Vignerons. But in every Fête des Vignerons, it is shown in a different way. Why? Because the confrérie wants to have a very creative process to make each festival completely new, and she engaged artists to write the text, the music, and as stage manager to create something completely new. Here you see 1927, also the cowherds, because there are also cowherds that belong to the typical element of the Fête des Vignerons. But each time the costumes are completely designed new. Each time some elements are kept, other are not kept. New elements are coming in. So it's very important that nowadays it's a very huge historical heritage of 11 past celebration, a great tradition, a big archive that is kept in the museum, but also constant wishes to go with modernity, to involve patriotic value in a contemporary idea, to have a relationship with pastoral and urban life. Why? Because people who organize this Fête des Vignerons and the land owner are people who live in an urban context, but they deal with their farmer. And the environment, lake, mountains, the Alps, and nowadays also durability and ecology is very important. And last but not least, voluntary involvement. It's very important to know that all organization of the Fête des Vignerons is made by volunteers. Nowadays there are 20 people in an office who make the organization and the financial part of the organization. And we are more than 300 volunteers in the different working groups who work since 2 years now for this organization. And it will grow to 1,000 volunteers who will be helping the 5,000 people who will be playing in this Fête des Vignerons. So it's very exponential. You see it also in the financial element. You see that the budget in 1999 was 55 million, and for the next edition it is almost 100 million francs. But this festival doesn't get any money from the States and has to pay everything also to the town where it is. Very quickly you see the new arena. It will be built, it will begin in January to have 5 stages and place for 20,000 spectators. So you see that the scenic place is very important, and all these elements made that the Fête des Vignerons is in the intangible heritage. Very important, all generations are involved. Children, elder people. For the next festival, the younger is 2 years old and the eldest one is more than 90 years old. It's carried by volunteers, and the museum is very important as places where all the memory is kept, the archive as headquarters of the society, but also the place where the volunteers and the people come to keep the memory of the Fête des Vignerons, because 20 years it's very long from one to another. So just go to the next poster. The next Fête des Vignerons is waiting for you next year.
Hello everyone. Now I'm a little bit afraid of the air horn. I press play for the time. I think the first introduction to Parkour was really good, so we skip the first 2 parts, this one as well. Thank you very much for introducing me. We go straight into the question, what is Parkour? And when I say Parkour, I think in your minds and of your heads are popping up images of videos maybe you've seen, maybe some people you've seen in your home city jumping around, doing something. And Parkour is a big part of what Parkour is a big part about what people think it is. You can look at Parkour from different perspectives, and whoever you ask, you get a different answer what it is. First, we're going to look at the historical part of Parkour. Where did it develop from? The origin of Parkour is from a French naval officer called Georges Hébert, who developed la méthode naturelle in the Indochina War, and he developed this training method of movement to train soldiers to become more able to move in forest areas. So they trained the soldiers, and out of this there was a child soldier who was called Raymond Bell, who was taught in the méthode naturelle, and he was really good in moving, and it was one of his passions and one of the ways he could empower himself in a situation like this. And he learned a lot for himself from the méthode naturelle, and when he was able to move from the Indochina War to France, he wanted to share some of his passions, some of the things he learned that was important to him, to his family and his child. And the origin of Parkour is actually just the translation of la méthode naturelle, moving in forests and in stones and swimming and climbing. All of this just applied to the urban landscape. Because his students, his family, were the first one who thought, why do we always have to go to the forest to train? We can move in the city as well. And out of this, there was like one who was considered to be the founder, David Bell, his son, who founded the word Parkour, and it is for Parkour du Grand Manteau, the military obstacle course, just replaced the C with a K for the harsh training which they got from his father. And the group he trained with was called Jamakazi, and it was like we heard before, one of the good multi-ethnic groups in the slums in the urban parts of Paris. This is one part of where you can look at parkour, and from these guys, they published the first video called Speed Air Man, and it was like with the beginning steps of social media, this video published, and with the publication of this media, the whole community grew in the world, because a lot of people saw it and then developed their own meaning of parkour. So parkour is also really closely intertwined with the media culture. You can look at parkour from this perspective and see what are people producing with parkour, what are they doing. And out of it is the thing that's most spectacular and a lot of people associate with parkour is videos about young white males doing big jumps. That's like the classic. And it was a big part of the development as well, because there was a lot of information sharing between different subcultures. And then in the end, we also have the cultural aspect, the things you don't see in the media really often, because they tend to be slow and they tend to be individualistic. So a lot of people who train in parkour are not doing any videos, so you will never see them except if you walk past them in your city. For example, in Bern, if you go to the Bankdorf, you will see some people training, and that is also the part of parkour without filming. There are different ways of practicing parkour. There are different people who think parkour is something really artistic, something really that includes a lot of expression. You can think of it as dancing. When you dance with the rails and walls, you can imagine parkour as this kind of thing. You can imagine parkour as also as a really athletic sport. You can imagine it as something where you want to push yourself to the limits of your capabilities. And then oftentimes that's the point which goes to the media as well. And for us, it is parkour is just the continuation of development of movement you anyway have. All of you were children once, and when you started to move, it was first really small steps. You start crawling, walking, and when you have little children and watch them, they're jumping all over the place. And that is, in its sense, kind of parkour. Because parkour is more like continuing this evolution of motion and learning how to move. And don't stop at 18 years because it's not socially acceptable to jump around. In common, all these practices have that they're a dialogue between yourself, your environment, and other people. It's you can look at parkour and you can see that people are negotiating the purpose of public space. They are negotiating what a wall is for, and they are negotiating what a rail is for, what the structures you anyway have. You can negotiate what a chair over here is for. When you're standing on it, you're kind of discussing if it's just for sitting. And parkour is kind of this part combined with the need and the desire of developing physical capabilities of yourself. Parkour means getting in contact with the city. It's a really urban feature, and when I say it is a dialogue between yourself and the environment and other people, you can apply this definition as well to alpinism, for example. It's getting in contact and negotiating the use of mountains. What are they for, and what can we do with them, and what is interesting for me to do with them. And I think kind of the fascination about climbing mountains is about finding something out about the mountains and also about yourself. I am from Parkour, and we're an organization who try to teach parkour holistically. And for that, we've developed a set of values, which I want to present to you, and it's really good and really easy to remember because you can count it on one hand. You first have the thumb, which in our culture stands for there's no good and bad. There's no comparison between the skills. You do it for yourself and only for yourself. So there's concurrence, which we say in English. And then we have this one. It's a famous one when you do like this. So what my mother told me when I started doing parkour, it's like, be careful. And that's something we try to do as well. You only have one body, there are no extra parts, you can't replace anything. And so you have to be careful what you do and try to do it in a sustainable fashion with yourself. This one stands for the opposite. It is usually used in our culture. It stands for respect. We train in the city, and we have to respect the places where we train at. This one stands for trust. Trust among yourself when you train together, when you help each other, and also trust in yourself. Sometimes you have to trust yourself to do something. And the second last one is the smallest of all the fingers, and it stands for modesty. You never are the biggest and the best. There are simply too much obstacles in the world to say you're able to do them all, and there's always going to be someone who is now better or will be better at anything you do. So there's no use in trying to be not modest. And the last one is when you combine all the values, you have a motion of grabbing. And for us, it means a motion of courage. Something you have to have courage in your life, and you have to have courage to do parkour. Just in a measure that is sensible. Don't be over courageous. In the Parkour Academy, we have different fields we work in, and next to shows and video, what we're doing as well, our heart beats for education and for teaching people. I think that's the reason why it's really good to, why it's interesting in this discussion of intangible cultural heritage, because what we offer and the thing we think is most important is intangible, per definition. I will just leave this question here because my time is finished. Thank you very much.
Hello all. I need to stand in front of the table because I'm way too small. You can't see me back there. So, I'm a passionate skier, and maybe some of you practice this as well and know what it feels like. It's a bit like standing here. I get goosebumps and I get really nervous when it's powdery. I love to jet stream through trees or ski technical lines, steep lines. The little black dot there, that's me. When I first met with Barbara, she called me an expert in avalanches, but I'd rather consider myself an expert in avoiding them. Because who wants to get caught in one of these? I don't. Okay? The next picture we see, it's a picture of a friend who took it, and he clearly focuses more on the view and the beautiful mountains and tons of snow are there, but he keeps in mind that on the bottom of the picture there's a huge avalanche. So the danger is always there when we step out of bounds. So it is really hard to explain and even to predict precisely how an avalanche is set off. And with the recent drought circumstances that make an avalanche go off, it depends how much it snows. It depends on the inclination of slope. So the steeper it gets, the more dangerous it is. The wind, because the wind can transport a lot of snow from one side of the mountain to the other, and it forms sort of pillows, and if you ski in one of those, then you can set off an avalanche. The temperature, it depends if it rises or it falls. It will weaken different layers in the snowpack. The exposition is also key, because the sun, if it's a south face, the sun is there every day. The north face, there's no sun at all. It makes the bonding of the snowpack, the different layers, really difficult. Okay? So the 10 minutes I have here are way too short, and I've probably run out of time already now to dive deeper in this theme, because it's huge. I could speak a week about this. So, again, laser pointed to this. This is me in a very steep couloir, we call this, and I need to assess the risk I'm getting myself into when I go there. I also only go there with people that I know that are aware of the risk they are getting themselves into. Maybe next year I can take my girlfriend. So, to assess the risk and to plan a tour, we need planning tools. So, weather app would be one that determines the weather we're encountering. It doesn't really matter if it's bluebird or if it's snowing. What matters most is the snow quality, because we need it in our faces. The maps that will tell me where to go, how long it will take me to go there, and how steep the lines are. We are part also of a bigger community of locals, friends, members of the mountain rescue, and also alpine guides who share infos, social media posts on WhatsApp. WhatsApp is our main communication tool because it's fast and it's easy to handle. But the most important tool we use is the SLF White Risk app. The SLF is the Swiss Research Center on Avalanche Danger, and it issues different maps. I'm sorry for sounding. So, one of those maps is how much it snowed in one day. As you can see, the darker the color gets, the more excited I get, but the higher the avalanche danger gets as well. So we need to keep this in mind. If I have the next map, this is a map about actual avalanche risk. There are different levels. The green one would be moderate, very low. The yellow one would be moderate, where it's still okay to go. And the third one would be considerable, where you need to have a considerable experience to plan your tours and to know where you are. The windroses determine on which exposition the actual danger is. Sorry. The next map, it came out 3 days before the other one. So the danger increased significantly. Okay? So we have a red for 4. That means I leave all this stuff and my skis at home and go over to my friend and drink hot chocolate and watch movies. The other one, the red and black one, will mean that I watch movies at home and I stay at home, because the avalanche could cause cause damage to streets and settlements. It is very catastrophic, and I have maybe seen 2 times a 5 in about 10 years. The last winter was as much, there was as much snow as in '99, so you can imagine how much it occurs. So to go on tours, we need to take equipment, and I took some of it with us. The most important would be a beacon, that allows me to be found and to find my friend if he was taken by an avalanche. It also determines how deep he is under. Then I need an avalanche probe that helps me to locate him precisely once I found the signal. And obviously a shovel to shovel him out. To make you understand how fast we need to work, it's after about a quarter an hour, his chances of survival, if he's fully buried, are about 50%. In the last few years, we saw these babies come out. This is a backpack that has an actual balloon in it, and if I'm taken by an avalanche, I can pull a trigger in front of the backpack and the balloon will blow up. They're really expensive, otherwise I would have shown you. It's really funny to watch. Okay, to explain the picture we have here is that's the mountain rescue who are training at least once a season, one in winter, one in summer, and you see guys digging out probes or backpacks that are buried to practice. So we have all this equipment with us, but we don't want to use it. I never used it until now on an actual avalanche set-off. I only use it in practice with either as a member of the mountain rescue or as a member of my group of friends. At the end, I would like to thank my friends and actually mountain rescue and the mountain guides we're talking with to keep me safe. And I'd like to ski for a long time, and I hope there will be snow for a long time. So, I didn't set off the horn yet. Okay, so I have some more pictures if Stefan is okay with it, until the horn sounds. Until the horn sounds. You need to see these. These are my friends, and I needed to represent them here as well. It's called snorkeling. The steep line was behind him, the second picture I showed you. On the glacier in Zermatt, and on an evening run. So this is my final picture. Thank you for your interest and enjoy the day.
Hallo zusammen, ich spreche in Deutsch. Ich denke, das verstehen die einen auch, und sonst haben wir diese wunderbaren Übersetzer hier. Ja, Urban Gardening, ein neues Phänomen oder etwas Altes, das schon lange da ist, schon immer da war. Wir müssen uns ja ernähren irgendwie. Nur in den Städten ist es verloren gegangen. Die Städte sind gewachsen, die Industrialisierung ist gekommen und das Grün blieb außerhalb der Städte. Und eben mit der Industrialisierung haben die Leute gemerkt, ja, wir brauchen auch wieder Grün in den Städten und designte Parks sind entstanden und ja, alles ist in die Städte reingekarrt worden und wir haben uns an die Abhängigkeit gewöhnt und dann kam die Finanzkrise 2008 und da hat eigentlich alles so begonnen mit dieser neuen Gartenkultur in den Städten und die Leute haben begonnen, wieder ihren Lebensraum selbst zu gestalten, aber auch die Idee umzusetzen, das eigene Gemüse selbst anzubauen. Jetzt muss ich mal schauen, wie es mit der Zeit läuft. Alles ein bisschen stressig. starte mal ein bisschen verzögert. Ja eben, die Pflanzen, die wachsen einfach, die kann man nicht stressen, man kann ihnen Dünger geben, aber zu viel ist dann auch nicht so ideal. Ich bin in die Stadt gekommen, ich bin ja auf dem Land aufgewachsen und habe bald gemerkt, dass ich irgendwas mit den Händen tun will, dass ich mein Gemüse selbst anbauen will. Es ist auch so die symbolische Idee der Selbstversorgung natürlich aufgekommen und da habe ich dann einen Raum gefunden, sozusagen mitten in der Stadt Zürich, in Zürich West. Eben da war ein altes Fußballstadion, ihr seht das unten im Bild und oben waren die Fußballrasen und da gab es dann aus Initiative, aus der Bevölkerung, aus dem Quartier die Idee, diesen Ort zu nutzen, solange nicht gebaut wird. Und da hat sich der Verein Stadionbrache gegründet, um diesen Ort möglichst frei zu gestalten und zu bespielen. Und jetzt sind wir schon im 8. Nutzungsjahr dieser Stadionbrache Harturm und im Zuge dessen sind eben auch Gärten entstanden. Es ist nicht mit Garten, hat nicht mit Garten begonnen, sondern es hat mit Skaten begonnen und mit Brotbacken. Und nach sind dann eben auch Gärten entstanden und dieser Garten heißt Stadiongarten. Das sind etwa 80 Kleinparzellen, die von über 200 Leuten unterschiedlichster Art, Schüler und Familien und WGs und Einzelpersonen und so weiter in Eigenregie bewirtschaftet werden. Und es gibt nicht viele Regeln. Die wichtigste Regel ist, dass man respektvoll mit dem Ort umgeht und man hat Anspruch auf die Parzelle, solange man sie bewirtschaftet, und wenn man sie nicht bewirtschaftet, dann geht sie einfach an den nächsten über. Das hat aber nichts damit zu tun, wie sauber man jätet, sondern wie oft man zu seinem Garten kommt. Und das Schöne am Stadiongarten ist, man muss nur einen kleinen Flecken Land bewirtschaften oder beobachten oder Anteil nehmen, aber hat das Gefühl eines großen Gartens, weil es ja ganz viele kleine Parzellen zusammen sind. Die Basis des Gärtens ist der Boden. Das ist sehr ausgeprägt. Im Stadiongarten haben wir eine ausgeprägte Kompostwirtschaft. Hier sehen wir gerade, wie wir die Komposthaufen aufbauen. Das ist auch etwas Gemeinschaftliches natürlich, das zusammen zu tun. Und eigentlich kompostieren wir ja nicht, sondern wir bieten den Organismen die Möglichkeit, die organischen Stoffe wieder zu Humus umzubauen. Jetzt muss ich was trinken. Ich muss jetzt mal. Es geht darum, beim Kompost natürliche Prozesse sichtbar zu erleben und auch die Zeit zu, zu spüren oder diesen Vorgängen eben Zeit zu lassen. Und gerade in den Städten ist das sehr wichtig, oder haben die Leute immer mehr das Bedürfnis, wieder ein natürliches Zeitgefühl zu erleben, weil rundherum ist alles sehr schnelllebig und stressig und man geht von einem Ort zum anderen und es wird halt hauptsächlich konsumiert und nichts selbst produziert. Ja, diese Organismen, die machen schlussendlich die gesunde Erde. Es geht auch darum, ein Bewusstsein zu schulen oder zu erleben für Kulturboden. Ich unterscheide zwischen Wildnis und Kulturboden und Naturschutz. Ja, da habe ich meine Mühe damit, weil wir könnten einfach Wildnis zulassen und unseren Kulturboden so bewirtschaften, dass es eine Diversität gibt und dass wir in unserem Kulturboden und von unserem Kulturboden leben können und alle Bedürfnisse des Lebens da abdecken können. Hier ist mein kleiner Sohn Eugen an Tomatenernten. Er sagt Motate statt Tomate. Es geht um Selbstversorgung. Man kann einen Samen in den Boden bringen, beobachten, wie er keimt, wie er größer wird. Vielleicht muss man dann der Pflanze etwas helfen, muss sie aufbinden, muss gewisse Zweige ausknicken, zum Beispiel bei den Tomaten. Ja, es geht darum, wir können ja kein Geld essen, aber die Tomate, die können wir essen. Und mit der Tomate geht es dann auch wieder weiter, weil in dieser Tomate sind ja kleine Samen und die können wir nächstes Jahr wieder in den Boden bringen. Es ist ganz wichtig bei diesem Urban Gardening der soziale Austausch. Das ist wie eine große Familie gewachsen, eine offene Familie in diesem Stadiongarten oder auf dieser Stadionbrache, und gleich nebenan ist der Supermarkt und da gehe ich hinein und dann kommt die Nachbarin und sagt, ja, jetzt haben Sie keine Rhabarber im Supermarkt. Ja gut, also dann kommst du gleich in den Garten rüber und ich gebe dir einen Bund Rhabarber. Und das sind sehr schöne kleine Erlebnisse, die da stattfinden. Oder ich habe da begonnen zu gärtnern, bin gekommen mit einem Plastiksack mit einem Mirabellenbaum drin und habe den gepflanzt, und inzwischen kann ich schon einige Liter Schnaps davon herstellen und die Mirabelle natürlich auch frisch essen. Das ist ein wunderbares, direktes Erlebnis. Was sehr wichtig ist, ist natürlich dann die Weiterverarbeitung dieses Gemüses, das wächst, der Kräuter, und vor allem die Erfahrung, ganzheitliche Abläufe wirklich direkt zu machen oder zu erleben. Und das Grundbedürfnis, Essen ist ja ein Grundbedürfnis, das direkt umzusetzen. Es ist wir haben eine große Outdoor-Küche und kochen auf Holzvergasern und backen in großen Lehmöfen, aber das ist nicht eine geschlossene Gesellschaft, sondern das ist offen für alle, es können alle daran teilhaben. Dann natürlich das Essen selbst, das Ausgeben des Essens und das Zusammensitzen und zusammen Essen verbindet. Das entstehen neue Beziehungen. Es ist Geselligkeit, es passiert Austausch, auch Wissensaustausch natürlich. Ja, wie ist eine Tomate gewachsen und wie ist ein Kürbis gewachsen? Bei mir sind die Karotten gar nicht gekommen. Und es entstehen auch nachhaltige Beziehungen, neue Verbindungen, vielleicht sogar Familien oder vor allem die Nachbarn lernen sich auch kennen. Die wohnen zum Teil 20 Jahre am gleichen Ort und kennen sich nicht, und durch den Stadiongarten sind sie sich näher gekommen. Ja, viel Zeit ist nicht mehr, aber ich überziehe ein bisschen, weil ich bin ja der Letzte. Ja, ich habe auch Hunger. Urban Gardening ist vielleicht auch ein bisschen die Antithese zum Park zum designten Park in der Stadt. Es geht darum, es geht eigentlich um eine Irritation des Blickes, um die Unterbrechung vom gewohnten Bild. Das ist etwas sehr Wichtiges. Ja, dass man, es gibt ja auch andere Möglichkeiten, Lebensraum zu schaffen, als jetzt einen Park zu designen. Am schönsten ist man natürlich, wenn das sehr persönlich ist und wenn man an einen solchen Ort kommt, das sehr nahbar ist, weil alle Dinge, die da sind, könnte man selbst getan haben. Und das macht sehr direkt und das schützt aber auch natürlich vor respektlosen Umgang, wie zum Beispiel Vandalismus, was wir praktisch nicht haben. Und das ist etwas Wunderbares. Wir haben sehr viele Studenten und Schüler, die in den Garten kommen und ganz unterschiedliche Dinge tun, wie zum Beispiel eben skizzieren. Was sehr wichtig ist, natürlich den Garten einfach genießen, sich entschleunigen. Garten fördert sicher die Sorgfalt, die Tugenden der Menschen, die Geduld, die Demut und natürlich auch die Hoffnung. Schlussendlich wollen wir ein zufriedenes Leben und der Garten hilft uns sehr dabei. Wir können direkte Erfahrungen machen, wir können nicht nur uns Wissen aneignen, was wir ja auch in den Museen können oder in den Schulen oder so, sondern wir können wirklich direkte Erfahrung generieren, was wir dann auch im Alltag brauchen und nicht nur wie wir Kartoffeln waschen, sondern natürlich auch im übertragenen Sinn, was passiert, wenn wir etwas tun. Das Wichtige ist natürlich auch Teambildung oder eben gemeinsam handeln oder gemeinsam ein Ergebnis zu erleben und dabei natürlich neue Pläne zu schmieden, Visionen auszutauschen und diese dann auch umzusetzen, auch wenn es erst 10 Jahre später ist. Der Garten ist ein wunderbarer Ausgleich eben zur schnelllebigen Stadt. Es benötigt, das Urban Gardening hat vielleicht auch ein bisschen bewirkt, dass wir nicht mehr so viele Stadtflüchtlinge haben, sondern dass wir in der Stadt eben selbst unseren Lebensraum gestalten und uns eigentlich unseren Ort auch aneignen. Und es gibt natürlich dann sehr persönliche Verbindungen zwischen den Menschen und das ist was Wunderbares. Vielleicht als Schluss, der Garten ermöglicht eine alternative Erfahrung der Zeit und das ist für mich persönlich sehr wichtig, weil ich kann die Abläufe nicht beschleunigen, indem dass ich die Gangschaltung hochstelle. Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören.
Thank you very much for your presentations. I think they covered really a wide range of traditions, of practices linked to the urban space, urban living, and nowadays practices. Now we try to think about the link between your practices and the museums. Does any one of you have experiences with museums itself? Maybe doing an exhibition or Isabel, the Confrérie is running an own museum. Maybe you have a start. Why do you have a museum?
The Confrérie has a museum. It's not so a long time. I think it's more than 20 years now. Because from one Fête des Vignerons to another, it's so a long time that it's necessary to have a place in the city where it is. Because every year people come to the Fête and say, where is the Fête des Vignerons? Oh, it's not this year. But here you can see how it was, the archive, the films, the costumes. And also for the practitioner, it's very important to have a place where they can know that their memory is kept and they can find it over. So Sabine Carruzzo told me that she sometimes gets a phone from people who lost their umbrella, because in 1999 there was an umbrella with the logo of the Fête des Vignerons, and they just give a phone to the museum. Did you find my umbrella?
Thank you very much. Lula, I first saw you in a film which I saw in an exhibition in Zurich. Maybe you can tell about your experiences with this exhibition which was run by Stadtgrün Zürich some years ago.
Ja, das war eine Ausstellung von Grünstadt Zürich, dem städtischen Gartenbauamt, zu Urban Gardening. Und da haben sie natürlich bestehende Gärten in der Stadt porträtiert und auch den Stadiongarten ausgewählt und das in einem kleinen Film dargestellt, wo ich ein bisschen erklärt habe, wie heute auch, wie das Ganze funktioniert. Ich bin da ein bisschen kritisch, weil diese Gärten die gibt es ja, und eigentlich muss man nicht Ressourcen aufwenden, um diese Gärten zu zeigen, sondern man kann gleich in diese Gärten gehen und die da erleben. Und wenn Urban Gardening ausgestorben ist, was ich nicht denke, sondern im Gegenteil, dann kann es in ein Museum kommen. Aber ich finde jetzt das ein bisschen befremdend. Das ist schon die zweite Ausstellung in der Stadt Zürich. Bei der ersten habe ich dann die Kompostwürmer geliefert, damit die dann so einen Glaskompost aufbauen können.
Thank you very much. And you're experiencing now the collaboration with this museum. Can you explain how did it come to this collaboration? Did you ask, hey, wouldn't you like to make an exhibition about avalanche risk, or did they come to you? Please can you tell us something about it?
So the work is still ongoing. I know Barbara from my girlfriend, she worked here as well, and they were planning, she's involved everywhere. So they were planning this avalanche, and as I don't talk much about anything else than avalanches and snow and mountains, so the whole thing was really clear that, and then they asked me if I would, and I said yes, as a non-professional ski tourer, not as a mountain guide, so I can provide you with the wisdom I have, even if it's not much.
And what does it mean concrete in your collaboration? You're talking about your Schufels and etc., or doing a film about a portrait about you or your colleagues?
Well, the first idea we had is, I already talked about the WhatsApp, and if you would see how we communicate, you would have a laugh, because usually it doesn't get to a planning end until 10:30 in the night before we go next day, and it would be really funny to see how we communicate, but it's also actually really difficult to take this and put it in a curating exhibition and to show all this emotion that is going on between friends. And so the last thing we agreed on is that someone will make an interview and ask me different questions so I can tell how I got this knowledge and how do we do to plan. But the goal is actually to show from a tourer perspective how do we manage this knowledge and how do we manage the risk when we go out there.
Thank you very much. And what about you, Arvo? Have you ever been involved in an exhibition or something like this?
We have Part 1 had 2 collaborations in which I participated, and one was in an art setting where a friend tried to build movement-inspired public structures where you can sit on with dynamic shapes, and she wanted us to play with these prototypes in order to see how it works with movement, and we broke some of them, so the material has to improve a little bit. And the other one was quite recently, this summer, and in which I collaborated with the artist, the performance artist Isabel Lewis on the Art Basel. They had a big public exhibition on the Messeplatz, and one part of it was Isabel Lewis, and she was, her work is mostly about negotiating urban space, and she asked us to collaborate because we are kind of in our own way negotiating what public space is for. And it was a really amazing experience because we had a really special audience we usually don't have. We always say parkour is something for everybody. If you want to move a little bit and try something, that's fine, it's on every level, there's something to find. But usually we get pushed into the corner of young people doing this because people often have the risky jumps in mind, and the public we had there, the practitioners, were diverse from 19-year-old art students to 60-year-old curator. Everything was mixed together, and it was really nice to have show them a little bit our view of the urban space and how we think it is beautiful in its own way, even if it's grey and concrete. And I think showing the people a little bit of why we like the things we like, and to give that to a broader audience, I think that's something I had experienced the pleasure to do, and it was a good collaboration.
And when you mentioned an exhibition about parkour,
in the inside.
In the inside.
Yes.
Do you have any ideas, or would you say, no, I would never do an exhibition about parkour? I don't want to see photos or whatever, or the sneakers or the t-shirts of a parkourist in an exhibition.
We had different talks about this, and there are a lot of ways in which you can do it. You always have to make the transfer from the intangible part, because we think that's the important part, to an actual materialistic or presentational part. So you can, on one side, you can showcase the materials we use. There's not a lot, but the shoes usually tell a good story of what they went through with the people who trained in them, for example. And also there's a lot of media content on which you can quite see how different aspects of parkour are showing. So it's kind of, this part is the media part is useful as well. But also just to surprise people, a good friend of mine had an exhibition about parkour as well. He studied arts education as well, and he made a video about parkour, and people had to go over or under a rail to see the video, and kind of like the little challenges, maybe something like this would be interesting as well, like renegotiating the space inside a museum as well a little bit, because that's the big thing.
That means working together with the museum is a challenge for the museum too.
Yes,
because you have concrete ideas and images of how an exhibition should be.
Yeah, not necessarily of exhibitions itself, but more of what we think is important. And the translation of that is kind of the collaborative work that is
difficult. Lolo, can you imagine an exhibition about urban gardening where you would be satisfied?
Ja, ich denke nicht unbedingt so eine stationäre Ausstellung, das ist irgendwie absurd. Die Pflanzen da hinzustellen und sie dann wieder wegzukarren. Ich denke, es könnte eine Ausstellung sein, wo die Leute vielleicht einen Guide bekommen und dann durch die Städte gehen und sich die Dinge gerade vor Ort anschauen. Man könnte das vielleicht im übertragenen Sinne ausstellen, aber nicht so jetzt als Objekt, sondern mehr so im Rahmen, wie wir jetzt heute sind, in einem sozialen Austausch, was bei den Leuten im Geiste vorgeht, was sie dabei empfinden. Ich denke, da sehe ich Möglichkeiten, das weiterzugeben oder für die Leute sichtbar zu machen, aber ja, es ist alles da, man muss nur hingehen und schauen.
Now I would like to bring the audience in at this point. Maybe there are some questions, some remarks. Only two, but there I see there's one person. Cornelia, would you please?
Thank you. I have actually two questions. The first one is concerning the Fête de Vignerons. Can you tell me what happens there exactly? That 40,000 people come there every day.
So every day there is a show that lasts around 2.5 hours in this arena you saw, and this show is completely created new at each Fête de Vignerons. So there are a group of artists who create this show, and it take apart from tradition and put it in a new storytelling. Each artist is free to tell it from himself, and what is very important is also the function of the museum and the archive, because while preparing the show, it's always a question, what is tradition? Is this obligatory or not? Should we do that, or can we do it on another manner? And if you go back in the history, in the last 11 past edition, you find that everything was possible, because once it was like that or on another manner. So the museum is very important because it gives a basis, but also it gives freedom to the creator to create a new show. So this show is played by 5,000, not all together, but during different pictures in the show, with singing, with music, played live music, also gymnastics, and depending each edition, you will discover it in Vevey next year.
There was another question.
You have a second question.
May I?
Only a half question.
Is it self-financing? So, because
Yes, it should be.
Okay, because in my eyes there's a huge gap between
Yes.
intangible and the amount of 100
Yes,
million.
it is self-financing, because a lot of partners want to be sponsoring this event. But the tickets you have to pay, and the volunteers have to pay apart from their costume. If the final result is good, they will get the money back.
Okay.
So if it's good, they don't pay anything, only that time.
I think it was a nice input from Lorenz that it might be worth the thought that the museum think about going out to the context with the exhibitions and not thinking about the exhibitions in the house.
There's another question.
sorry, I bored you already for such a long time, but I have a question. Thank you very much for these wonderful inputs. I felt this morning in your session that I was actually in Switzerland. And it's not a critique, it's sort of maybe because I'm now at the moment always reflecting on othering and inclusion. I see a lot of emotional networks and emotional communities, a concept that Marloes is of course very much working on. But I also see a specific sort of community and you're saying that you're inclusive, but when I see your pictures, I see sort of hipster people, whitish, doing gardening, which I love. But how do you involve this so-called hyper-diverse, super-diverse, or call it multicultural urban context that we are now living in, also in Zurich, which are different communities with different kind of codes, and the same goes for maybe the Alpine. I'm not a skier, but how do you actively engage with the sort of new Swiss people that are not familiar with this practice to include them? And the same also goes for your wine festivities. Is it how open are you in your practices that others can join in? I see it very strongly with your parkour, but I was sort of lacking it at the other case studies. But maybe it's just my own way of framing at the moment.
Let's hear the answer.
Okay, so it's really interesting what she said, and when she pointed out the Alpine part of this, is that it doesn't really matter what color and what social background one has, but it matters what skill he has. I can't take someone right off the street and take him with me where I go. It means he has to show training abilities, and we always take new people. Every year there is a new friend who comes and, I bought the new avalanche equipment, I want to go. And we will take them with, and we will show them easier stuff. So I consider myself really open, but I also have a certain, I need to know that this person is also, has a certain skill to take him with to the Alpine milieu. So that's my limitation.
If you don't know the codes of the milieu because you're not into the practice, how do you get into the system?
Barbara already talked about the Alpine Club who made this museum. The Alpine Club is a big community of people who share the knowledge by giving courses, by having evenings where you can listen, and anyone that is interested in getting into the mountaineering, climbing, or the alpine skiing touring has the opportunity to visit one of those evenings or meetings. They have groups you can be a part of, easy tours, and then you get yourself slowly in. It will take time, but it will make you smile as well.
So in Fête des Vignerons there is two discussions. First discussion was this of women, because it's only 10 years that the women can be member of the brotherhood. So nowadays people who decide are mostly men. I am the only woman in 20 men in this council. It's not easy every day because I am young in this case. So the tradition is in evolution, but this is quite slow. But in fact, to be a volunteer and to be involved in Fête des Vignerons is open to everybody. So there are a lot of people who announce themselves. There's The only condition is they have to live in an area from Lausanne to Bay. But it doesn't matter if they came last week or since 3 generations. But we noticed that it was more or less difficult to get children from new inhabitants because their parents didn't know what it is. So there was a lot of work done in the schools to explain what it is because they didn't have the memory. Since 20 years they were not born. And we also had special condition for children to come later. Instead of announcing 1 year ago if they want, they can still announce till this week, at the end of September. And we went in the schools to get children even if their parents don't know anything from this. More or less successful because the engagement is very important. You have to have 3 weeks holidays fully for the festival and to be able to go on rehearsal once a week since nowadays till next year. So not everybody wants to engage so much, but it doesn't make a difference between local people or this is a matter for everybody. If you want to engage, if you have time, if you want, like Sandro Catachin says this morning, if you want to think what I will do next year, and if you want to book your holiday now.
What about the Stadion Garden? How do you manage this task, this challenge?
Ja.
Isn't it a challenge for you?
Hört man mich, ja. Ich denke, jeder Ort und auch jede Community hat einen ausschließenden Zug oder einen ausschließenden Charakter in ihrer Natürlichkeit. Wichtig ist für mich, dass man nicht aktiv ausschließt, als Raum oder als Gemeinschaft, und das pflegen wir jetzt auf der Stadionbrache sehr stark. Das ist uns sehr wichtig, dass der Raum offen ist für alle, eben alle reingehen können und mitmachen können, wenn sie wollen oder eben nicht. Und ich denke, ja, es gibt nicht... Ja, es ist wichtig, dass es diverse Orte gibt, eben dass nicht alles gleichgeschaltet ist, und da trägt jetzt zum Beispiel eine Stadionbrache in der Stadt Zürich, vor allem in Zürich Beton West, sehr viel dazu bei, dass es eben Vielfalt gibt, weil ich denke, so fixierte Räume oder auch fixierte Vorstellungen einer Gemeinschaft haben schnell eine ausschließende Wirkung oder generieren eine Szene, was wir jetzt zum Beispiel überhaupt nicht sind. Oder was heißt wir? Wir sind ich, bin wir und umgekehrt. Und der Raum ist eben offen für alle. Und ja, es muss jeder selber entscheiden, ob er kommen will oder nicht. Das ist für mich wichtig. Ja.
Arvo, do you have any experiences about this topic?
Yes, we have like the problem that media culture focuses on one side of parkour, which we try not to promote. So we have the struggle or we try the best we can to include everybody in the training, and we do it in always telling people that parkour is unisex, for example, with the female community, and also to have an open culture. And one thing that I think is really special, a lot of people don't see it from the outside, but we have, when we have classes, the regular classes, we always try to make them as diverse as possible out of group dynamic reasons. If you have 12-year-old people train together with 14-year-old people, you usually get a really open culture in the group you have. And it's kind of a backlashing effect, because if you have an open culture, people from other cultures or more diverse people are feeling welcome, because they feel that it is fine to be physically very able, and it is also fine to be physically not really able, and it's fine to be anything you like in the training. But we have kind of we struggle against main culture in this part, and we try our best to push against it.
Thank you very much, Flo. Thank you very much, Arvo. Thank you very much, Isabel. Thank you very much, Patrice. It's lunchtime now. Have a warm applause.
Thank you all for all this inspiring example. We are a bit late on the schedule, even if we are in Switzerland. Call that evolution of tradition, or I don't know what, but we have just a short hour for the lunchtime. It will be held downstairs at the Las Alps restaurant. So have good time and please don't be late when coming back.